The shuttle carrying Ambassador Marcus Chen docked with the massive alien ship. Through the viewport, he could see the vessel stretched for miles in every direction. Its surface gleamed with gold and silver decorations. Tall spires rose from the hull like the towers of an ancient castle. This was the Eternal Dominion, flagship of the Zephyrian Empire. Chen straightened his uniform and stepped through the airlock. 2 Zephyrian guards stood waiting. They were tall creatures, nearly 8 feet high, with blue skin that shimmered under the lights. Their forearms held ceremonial weapons that looked more like art than tools of war. They said nothing as they led Chen down a long corridor. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps. Hundreds of systems glowed in purple light. Each one belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. Chen had studied the reports. The Zephyrians controlled 400 star systems. They had been in space for 12,000 years. Humanity had barely left Earth 80 years ago. The corridor opened into an enormous chamber. The ceiling rose so high that Chen could barely see it. Thousands of aliens filled the room. Some stood on balconies. Others floated in the air using technology Chen did not understand. At the far end sat a massive throne made of what looked like crystal. On the throne sat Empress Velshara. She was larger than the other Zephyrians. Her skin was deeper blue, almost purple. A crown of light floated above her head. Her eyes were golden and fixed on Chen as he walked forward. The sound of his boots on the floor echoed in the silent chamber. "So," the Empress said, her voice booming through the space, "this is a human." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Chen kept walking until he stood at the base of the throne platform. He bowed slightly, showing respect but not submission. "I am Ambassador Marcus Chen, representing the United Earth government. We come in peace to establish diplomatic relations." More laughter. The Empress leaned forward. "Peace," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "How charming. Tell me, Ambassador, how many worlds does your government control?" "1," Chen replied calmly. "Earth." The laughter grew louder. The Empress waved one of her 4 hands, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed Earth small and blue alone in the solar system. "1 world," Velshara said. "We have 400. 1 species. We have conquered dozens. 1 primitive system that barely learned to cross its own asteroid belt." She waved another hand and more images appeared. "This is humanity's space program. 80 years old. Small stations. Tiny mining operations on nearby moons," she waved again. New images filled the air. Ancient Zephyrian vessels, huge fleet formations, planets with cities covering their entire surfaces. This is the Zephyrian Empire. 12,000 years of civilization. 5,000 years of space travel. "We ruled the stars when your ancestors were still living in caves." Chen said nothing. His face remained calm. The Empress stood. She was even larger than Chen had thought. She walked down the steps until she stood directly in front of him. "You came to negotiate, human, so let us negotiate. Here are my terms. Earth will become a protectorate of the Zephyrian Empire. You will provide 60% of your planet's resources to us each year. You will allow Zephyrian administrators to oversee your government. You will teach your people to show proper respect to their superiors. In return, we will protect you from other threats in the galaxy." She smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You have no choice, really. Accept these terms or we will take what we want by force. You have 1 small world. We have 400. You have mining ships. We have war fleets. This is not a negotiation between equals." The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye watched Chen. He stood quietly for a moment, then spoke. "I must decline your terms, Empress." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Velshara's eyes widened. "Decline?" She laughed, but it sounded forced. "You cannot decline. You have no power to decline." "Every sovereign species has the right to determine its own path," Chen said. "Humanity will not become a tributary state. We will not surrender our freedom. If you wish to establish relations based on mutual respect, we are willing. If not, we must respectfully refuse." The Empress's face darkened. Her 4 hands clenched into fists. "You dare refuse me? You who represent a species that barely crawled out of its own gravity well? I could destroy your entire civilization with a fraction of my fleet." "Perhaps," Chen said quietly. "But that would be war. Is that what you want?" Velshara threw back her head and laughed. The sound was cruel and mocking. The entire chamber joined her, thousands of aliens laughing at the human standing alone before them. "War?" the Empress said when she could speak again. "You call it war? It would be an extermination, a lesson, a footnote in history. She leaned close. I will give you 30 days, human. 30 days to return to your little blue world and convince your leaders to accept my generous terms. If you refuse, my fleets will come to Earth. We will blockade your planet. We will take what we want, and you will learn what happens to primitives who forget their place. She straightened and waved dismissively. Take him away. Let him carry my message back to his kind. The guards grabbed Chen's arms. They dragged him back down the long corridor while laughter followed them. Inside the shuttle, Chen sat in the pilot's seat. His hands moved across the controls. The shuttle undocked and began moving away from the massive alien ship. Only when he was clear of their sensor range did Chen's calm expression change. A small smile touched his lips. He opened a secure communication channel and typed a single message. Protocol Nightfall. Authorization Alpha 7. They chose war. He pressed send and watched the message disappear into the encrypted network. Then he set course for Earth and engaged the faster-than-light drive. Behind him, the Zephyrian flagship grew smaller in his viewport. They had no idea what was coming. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo stood in the command center buried 3 miles beneath the surface of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. The room was cold and dark except for the glow of dozens of screens. Officers sat at their stations speaking in quiet voices. Everyone knew what was coming. A light blinked on her console. Chen's message had arrived. She read it once, then read it again. Her jaw tightened. Attention, she said. Her voice cut through the quiet conversations. Every officer turned to face her. Protocol Nightfall is now active. Begin fleet mobilization. All units to war status. The room erupted into controlled chaos. Officers began typing commands. Screens flickered to life, showing star maps, ship positions, and supply charts. One by one, status reports came in. Titan base acknowledging orders. Ceres station going to war status. Europa dock releasing fleet elements. Okonkwo watched the reports scroll across her screen. She thought about Earth and how they had reached this moment. Most species in the galaxy discovered peace before they reached the stars. Humans were different. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself with wars, nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental collapse. For decades, it seemed like humanity would die on the planet where it was born. Then came the unification. After the last war almost killed everyone, the survivors decided they would never fight each other again. Every nation on Earth joined together under one government. Every weapon was turned toward a single purpose, making sure humanity would never be helpless again. The world told itself a story. They said humanity was exploring peacefully, building small research stations, mining asteroids for resources, making friends with their robot probes. The official budget showed a modest space program barely larger than the old national efforts. But that was a lie. A necessary lie. In secret, humanity had been building. Not exploring. Building. Preparing. Making sure that when they met other species in the galaxy, they would meet them as equals, or as superiors. Okonkwo pulled up a list of assets. To the outside world, humanity had maybe 20 large ships, mining vessels, research stations, transport craft. The Zephyrians had seen those ships. They were not impressed. They had not seen what was hidden. 50 secret bases scattered across the solar system, hollow asteroids converted into shipyards, facilities buried under the ice of Europa and Enceladus, structures hidden in the rings of Saturn, camouflaged to look like natural formations, construction yards on the far side of moons where no telescope could see them. From these hidden places, humanity had built a fleet, 847 warships, not mining vessels or research craft, real warships designed for one purpose: war. Fast attack cruisers built around massive railguns, carriers launching swarms of autonomous fighters, dreadnoughts covered in armor plating and bristling with missile pods, electronic warfare ships designed to blind enemy sensors and jam their communications. The Zephyrians built their ships to look impressive. Tall spires, gold plating, decorative weapons. Their vessels were floating palaces designed to intimidate primitive species and show off their ancient power. Human ships looked like exactly what they were: weapons. Angular hulls designed to deflect sensors, dark gray armor that absorbed radar. No decorations, no wasted space. Every surface served a purpose. They were ugly and brutal and efficient. Okonkwo switched screens and reviewed the technology reports. Humanity's advantages were clear. The Zephyrians used energy shields based on 12,000-year-old technology, effective against other Zephyrian weapons. less effective against human railguns firing solid metal slugs at a fraction of the speed of light. The Zephyrians used plasma weapons that took time to charge and fire. Humans used nuclear-pumped lasers that fired at the speed of light and could be fired dozens of times per minute. The Zephyrians relied on biological crew for most ship functions. Humans used artificial intelligence that could make targeting decisions in microseconds. The Zephyrians fought in traditional formations that had worked for thousands of years. Humans had studied every battle in their own brutal history and designed tactics specifically to destroy larger fleets. Most importantly, the Zephyrians had not fought a real war in centuries. Their last few conquests had been against species that surrendered after a show of force. They practiced ceremony, not combat. Humans had spent 60 years preparing for total war against an unknown enemy. Every simulation, every wargame, every training exercise was designed around one question. What if we have to fight someone bigger than us? Now they had their answer. Admiral, an officer called out. Fleet status report. Task Force Valkyrie, 192 ships ready. Task Force Hammer, 184 ships ready. Task Force Anvil, 176 ships ready. Task Force Reaper, 168 ships ready. Task Force Shadow, 127 ships ready. Okonkwo nodded. 847 warships. More than twice what the Zephyrian Empire thought existed in human space. Deployment orders, she said. Task Force Valkyrie will engage the Zephyrian main fleet directly. We hit them hard and fast before they can organize. Task Force Hammer and Anvil will strike their forward bases and supply lines, cut off their ability to reinforce. Task Force Reaper will eliminate their communication stations. Blind them. Task Force Shadow will penetrate deep into their territory using stealth systems. Hit targets of opportunity. She paused and looked at the faces around her. Young faces, old faces, every skin color, every nationality that had once existed before the unification. Now they were just humans, just soldiers. The Zephyrians think we are primitives, she said quietly. They think we are weak because we only have one world. They are wrong. We are strong because we only have one world. We have nowhere to retreat, nothing to fall back on. If we lose, humanity ends. So we do not lose. She straightened and her voice grew harder. They wanted to see what humans do when cornered. They wanted to see what happens when you threaten our home. Let us show them. Officers began entering final commands. Across the solar system, ships powered up their engines. Weapon systems came online. Crews took their battle stations. Artificial intelligence networks synchronized. The human fleet began to move, silent and deadly, heading toward an empire that had no idea what was coming. On her screen, Okonkwo watched the fleet icons move. 847 ships, thousands of crew members, the entire military might of humanity, all of it heading toward a single destination. Zephyria Prime, the throne world of an empire that thought it could not be challenged. They were about to learn different. Empress Velshara sat in her private chambers reviewing reports. Most were routine. Trade figures from the outer systems, requests for additional ships to patrol remote regions, minor disputes between colony worlds, the daily business of running an empire that spanned 400 star systems. One report made her pause. An intelligence officer had noted unusual activity in human space. Several of their small research stations had gone dark. No transmissions, no response to hails. The mining operations around their asteroid belt showed decreased traffic. Velshara dismissed it with a wave. Obviously, the humans were panicking. They were probably evacuating their outlying facilities and pulling everything back to Earth. Scared primitives running home to hide. It was exactly what she expected. She called her military council. 5 generals appeared as holograms around her desk. They commanded the various fleets stationed throughout the empire. The human deadline expires in 5 days, she said. I want 3 battle fleets positioned near their system. When they refuse our terms, we will blockade their planet. Cut off all traffic, show them we are serious. Once they start running out of supplies, they will surrender. The generals bowed. One spoke up. 3 fleets, Empress. That seems excessive for a single primitive world. 1 fleet would be sufficient. I want them to see our power. Velshara replied. I want them to look up at their sky and see our ships blocking out their sun. Let them understand their place in this universe. The generals agreed, and their holograms vanished. Velshara smiled. In a few days, Earth would bow. Another primitive species would learn respect. Another system would join her empire. It was how things had always been. She did not know that at that exact moment, human warships were entering. Zephyrian Space. Commander Tavar commanded a patrol cruiser on the outer edge of the Empire. His ship, the Morning Pride, was 300 years old but well-maintained. It patrolled a quiet region where nothing ever happened. His crew was bored. They spent their time running drills and counting the days until their rotation ended. Then, sensors detected something. "Commander," his sensor officer called out. "Multiple contacts, bearing 047. Range, 4 light minutes." Tavar straightened in his chair. "Identification?" "Unknown, sir. Configuration does not match any known species. They are moving fast, very fast. Show me." The main screen flickered to life. Tavar saw 6 ships. They were smaller than his cruiser but moving at incredible speed. Their hulls were dark and angular. No lights, no decorations. They looked like knives cutting through space. "Hail them," Tavar ordered. His communications officer tried. "No response, sir. They are not answering." "Fire a warning shot across their path. Show them this is Zephyrian space." The Morning Pride fired. A plasma bolt streaked through space, passing in front of the unknown ships. The unknown ships did not slow down. They did not change course. They came straight at the Morning Pride. "Sir, they are powering weapons, battle stations, raised shields." The Morning Pride was old, but it had fought before. Its shields came up, its weapons locked onto the approaching ships. Tavar felt confident. 6 small ships against a Zephyrian. Cruiser was no contest. Then the unknown ships fired. Tavar had never seen weapons like these. No bright plasma bolts, no energy beams, just streaks of metal moving impossibly fast. Railgun slugs traveling at a fraction of light speed. The first volley hit the Morning Pride's shields. They held for exactly half a second. Then the shields collapsed like paper. The second volley hit the hull. Metal screamed. Sections of the ship simply vanished as kinetic energy tore through them. Alarms screamed. Half the crew stations went dark. "Return fire," Tavar shouted. His weapons officer tried. But before the plasma cannons could charge, the unknown ships launched missiles, dozens of them, small, fast, guided by artificial intelligence that made split-second adjustments. The missiles hit. Explosions rippled along the Morning Pride's hull. The engine room went critical. Life support failed in 3 sections. The whole battle lasted 17 seconds. Tavar found himself floating in the damaged bridge. Emergency lights flickered. Half his crew was dead. The other half was injured or unconscious. Through the cracked viewport, he saw the 6 unknown ships moving past them. They did not stop to finish the job. They just kept going, disappearing, into the darkness of space. With shaking hands, Tavar activated the emergency beacon. He recorded a message using the backup systems. "This is Commander Tavar of the Morning Pride. We have been attacked by unknown vessels. Human vessels, I think. 6 ships destroyed us in seconds. They are not primitives. I repeat, they are not primitives. They are apex predators. They are..." The transmission cut off as the last power reserves failed. Tavar floated in the darkness, bleeding, listening to the sounds of his dying ship. The message bounced across relay stations. It reached military command within hours. From there, it went straight to the Imperial Palace. Velshara read the report 3 times. She called up the sensor data the Morning Pride had transmitted before it went dark. She watched the playback of the battle. 17 seconds. A Zephyrian cruiser destroyed in 17 seconds by 6 small ships. She called her generals again. "Tell me this is a mistake," she said. The generals looked at the data. They looked at each other. No one spoke. "How?" Velshara asked. "How do primitives have weapons like this? Our intelligence said they had mining ships, research vessels, nothing military." "Either our intelligence was wrong," one general said slowly, "or they hid their true capabilities." "For how long? How do you hide a military fleet?" If they built everything in secret locations, the general trailed off. If they maintained communication silence, if they made us see only what they wanted us to see. Velshara felt something she had not felt in decades. Not since she was young and leading her first battle. She felt fear. Where are these human ships now? Unknown, Empress. After destroying the Morning Pride, they vanished. Our sensors cannot track them. Find them. I want every ship on alert. I want double patrols. Multiple alarms began sounding at once. The general's holograms flickered as emergency channels overrode normal communications. Reports flooded in from across the Empire. Human ships attacking supply convoys near the border. Human ships destroying communication relays in the outer systems. Human ships appearing out of nowhere, striking hard, then vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. On the tactical display, red icons began appearing across dozens of systems. Each icon represented a human attack. There were so many icons. How many ships do they have? Velshara whispered. No one answered because no one knew. The humans had hidden their true strength perfectly. Now they were everywhere, striking from multiple directions, moving faster than Zephyrian sensors could track. Recall the invasion fleets, Velshara ordered. I want every ship back to defend the core systems. I want another alarm. This one was different. Louder, more urgent. It was the alarm for the capital system. For Zephyria Prime itself. A sensor officer's voice came through, high with panic. Empress, we are detecting massive gravity signatures in the outer system. Multiple contacts, dozens of contacts. No, hundreds of contacts. They are heading straight for us. Velshara's blood went cold. She pulled up the sensor display for her throne world system. At the edge of the screen, she saw them. Hundreds of contacts moving in perfect formation toward Zephyria Prime. The human fleet had arrived. The celebration in the Imperial Palace had been going for hours. Nobles from across the Empire gathered to witness what they expected would be Earth's surrender. Musicians played. Servants carried trays of exotic foods. Holographic displays showed. The 3 Zephyrian battle fleets positioned near Earth's solar system. Empress Velshara sat on her throne wearing her finest robes. Today was supposed to be a triumph, the day humanity learned its place in the galactic order. The deadline had passed. Soon the humans would send their message of surrender. Then the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in after a moment, bathing the throne room in red light. Velshara stood. Around her, nobles began speaking in worried voices. "What is happening?" she demanded. An officer ran into the throne room, his forearms shaking. "Empress, the sensor network, the communication satellites, they are all going offline." "What, all of them?" "Every system within 3 sectors. Something is jamming our sensors. We cannot see anything beyond the immediate orbital space." Velshara felt her hearts racing. "Get me a visual, use the palace telescopes. I want to see what is out there." The officer ran. Velshara moved to the massive windows that overlooked the capital city. Behind her, the celebration had stopped. Everyone stood in silence watching the sky. At first, Velshara saw only stars, the familiar constellations she had known since childhood. Then, as her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she saw something else. The stars were disappearing. One by one, they winked out. Not disappearing. Being blocked. Ships. Enormous numbers of ships. They appeared from nowhere, dropping out of some kind of stealth mode. They materialized in orbit around Zephyria Prime in perfect formation. Hundreds of them. Dark and angular, blotting out the stars. The officer returned. "Empress, we count 200 vessels in orbit. Human vessels. They have surrounded the planet. Our defense fleet is scrambling, but what? They are already here, Empress. They bypassed all our sensors, all our early warning systems. They are above our cities right now." Velshara stared at the sky. 200 human warships hung in orbit like silent predators. How had they traveled across the Empire undetected? How had they penetrated the most heavily defended system in Zephyrian space? A new voice spoke. It came from the palace communication system. It came from every speaker in the city. It came from every screen and display across the planet. This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the United Earth Fleet. I am addressing Empress Velshara and the Zephyrian government. You wanted our attention. You have it. Velshara ran to the throne room's communication console. This is Empress Velshara. You have committed an act of war. You have invaded the capital system of the Zephyrian Empire. My fleets will destroy. You? Your fleets are scattered across your empire defending against our other task forces, Okonkwo replied calmly. We have disabled your long-range communications. They cannot help you. You are alone. On the displays, Velshara saw her defense, fleet launching, 50 warships, the home guard that protected Zephyria Prime, 50 of her finest vessels rising to meet the human invaders. The battle lasted minutes, not hours. Minutes. Human ships did not line up for traditional combat. They did not exchange broadsides of plasma fire. They moved like a school of fish, each ship perfectly coordinated with the others. Their artificial intelligence systems shared targeting data in real time. They fired railguns that moved too fast to dodge. They launched missiles that adjusted their course 100 times per second. Zephyrian ships exploded. Their shields collapsed. Under kinetic impacts they were never designed to stop. Their armor, made for show as much as function, offered no protection against weapons moving at relativistic speeds. One by one, the defense fleet died. Some ships tried to retreat. Human cruisers hunted them down with cold efficiency. Some ships tried to surrender. Human forces disabled their engines and left them floating in space. Velshara watched her fleet burn. 50 ships. Gone in minutes. And the human fleet had barely moved. They maintained their perfect orbital formation, barely firing a fraction of their weapons. You see now, Admiral Okonkwo's voice said. This is not the full human fleet. This is one task force. We have 4 more operating across your empire right now, destroying your supply bases, eliminating your communication infrastructure, disabling your ability to coordinate your forces. What do you want? Velshara asked. Her voice cracked. I want you to watch. On the displays, human ships began firing, not at Zephyrian vessels, at specific targets on the ground, precision strikes, military bases, command centers, weapons factories. The strikes were surgical. Buildings exploded, but only military buildings. The human weapons were so accurate they could destroy a target without damaging structures next door. Velshara saw one of her major military headquarters simply cease to exist. A railgun strike from orbit. The building vanished in a cloud of dust. The civilian hospital across the street remained untouched. Stop, she screamed. Stop this. The strikes continued. Another base, another command center, each one removed, with perfect precision. The humans were demonstrating their capability, showing that they could destroy anything they wanted, kill anyone they wanted. But they were choosing their targets carefully. They were not trying to conquer. They were making a point. After 10 minutes, the strike stopped. Velshara counted. 15 military installations destroyed. 0 civilian casualties. The humans had hit exactly what they intended to hit and nothing else. You mocked us, Admiral Okonkwo said. You called us primitives. You threatened our home. You gave us a choice between submission and death. We chose a third option. We chose to show you what humans do when you threaten our survival. Across the Empire, reports flooded in. Human task forces had struck simultaneously at dozens of key systems. Supply depots destroyed. Communications cut. Entire battle fleets disabled without being destroyed. The humans were not trying to kill Zephyrians. They were trying to cut the head off the Empire's military, and they were succeeding. The Eternal Dominion, the flagship where Velshara had mocked Ambassador Chen, sent a desperate message. It was under attack by human forces. Its engines were destroyed. It was drifting, helpless but intact. The crew was alive. The humans had chosen not to kill them. On the tactical display, Velshara saw the extent of the disaster. The Zephyrian military was not destroyed. It was paralyzed, unable to communicate, unable to coordinate. Individual ships still fought, but they fought blind and alone. The human fleet had cut through 12,000 years of military tradition in a single day. Velshara slumped on her throne. Around her, nobles stood in shocked silence. Through the windows, they could see the human warships hanging in the sky. Dark silhouettes against the stars. Silent. Waiting. "What have we awakened?" Velshara whispered. No one answered. The celebration. Decorations still hung in the throne room, a mocking reminder of the victory party that had become a funeral for Zephyrian pride. On the communication console, Admiral Okonkwo's voice spoke one more time. "We will remain in orbit until you are ready to negotiate. Real negotiations this time, between equals. Take your time, Empress. We can wait." The channel closed. The human fleet maintained position. 200 warships surrounding the throne, world of an empire that had thought itself invincible. And in the sky above every major city on Zephyria Prime, the people looked up and saw only human warships. 3 days after the battle, Ambassador Marcus Chen returned to Zephyria Prime. This time, no one laughed. No one mocked. When his shuttle docked, a full honor guard waited. Zephyrian soldiers stood at attention. Palace officials bowed as he passed. The throne room had changed. The celebration decorations were gone. The balconies that once held thousands of spectators now stood empty. Only essential personnel remained. The Empress sat on her throne, but she did not lean back with confidence. She sat forward, tense, watching Chen approach. Behind Chen walked 6 human Marines in combat armor. They were not ceremonial guards. They were soldiers who had just fought a war. Their weapons were powered down but ready. Their armor still showed scorch marks from battle. Chen stopped at the base of the throne platform. He did not bow this time. "Empress Velshara," he said, "I believe you wish to negotiate." Velshara looked at him. Her golden eyes showed something they had not shown before. Respect. And fear. "Ambassador Chen, we were wrong about your people." "Yes," Chen said simply. "You were." Velshara gestured and a holographic display appeared. It showed a treaty document. "We have prepared terms. Complete military disarmament of Zephyrian forces. Reparations for the act of threatening Earth. Open trade agreements with humanity. Your fleets will have passage rights through our territory. We will recognize Earth as an independent sovereign power with full diplomatic status." Chen read the terms carefully. They were everything Earth wanted. Everything they had gone to war to secure. "These terms are acceptable," he said. "But I have questions first." "Ask. Why did you threaten us? You had never met humans before. Why, assume we would submit?" Velshara was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice tired. "Because that is what always happened. For 12,000 years, we have been the dominant power. When we met new species, they saw our ships and surrendered. Those who did not surrender were destroyed. We forgot that dominance is not the same as strength. We forgot that an old empire is not the same as a strong empire." She stood and walked down the steps. For the first time, Chen saw her as she truly was. Not a proud empress, just a tired leader who had made a terrible mistake. "How?" she asked. "How did you do this? You were a single system. You had been in space for less than a century. We had 400 systems and 12,000 years of experience. How did you defeat us so completely?" Chen looked at her directly. "Because you built an empire on conquest and assumed might made you invincible. We built a civilization on survival and assumed everyone was a threat. You prepared for ceremony. We prepared for extinction. But your ships, your weapons, your tactics, all of it was more advanced than ours. You had 12,000 years, Chen said. 12,000 years of tradition. 12,000 years of doing things the same way because that way had always worked. You stopped innovating. You stopped adapting. You became comfortable." He gestured to the window where human warships still hung in orbit. "We had 80 years. 80 years knowing we were alone in a universe that might be hostile. We could not afford tradition. We could not afford to be comfortable. Every ship we built, we asked, What if we face someone stronger? Every weapon we designed, we asked. What if they have better defenses? Every tactic we developed, we asked. What if we are outnumbered? You built your entire civilization around fear, Velshara said. We built it around survival. Chen corrected. There is a difference. Fear makes you weak, but understanding that you might die tomorrow makes you strong. It makes you careful. It makes you prepared. Velshara returned to her throne. She looked old suddenly, older than her years. What happens now? You have defeated us. You could destroy our empire if you wished. Will you become conquerors like we were? Chen shook his head. No. We did not fight this war to build an empire. We fought because you threatened our home. Now, the threat is gone. Now we can do what we actually wanted to do from the beginning, which is talk, trade, learn from each other, explore the galaxy together. All the things we could have done if you had not assumed we were inferior. He pulled up a new document on the holographic display. These are humanity's actual terms. You will disarm your military fleets, yes, but we will help you rebuild them. Smaller, more efficient, more modern. We will share our defensive technology. We will establish trade routes. We will exchange scientific knowledge. We will create a mutual defense pact. Velshara stared at the terms. You would help us, after we threatened you, after we insulted your people. You made a mistake, Chen said. A terrible mistake. But you did not actually hurt us. Your fleets never reached Earth. Your threats were empty. Now you have learned your lesson. We see no reason to continue fighting an enemy that no longer wishes to be our enemy. Why? Velshara asked. Why show mercy? If our positions were reversed, we would have conquered you completely. That is why you lost, Chen said quietly. You thought in terms of conquest and submission. We think in terms of survival and cooperation. A conquered enemy is a resource drain. A willing ally is an asset. We would rather have 400 new systems as trading partners than as occupied territories. He gestured to the terms again. The choice is yours, Empress. You can sign this treaty, and humanity will help rebuild your empire into something stronger and better. Or you can refuse, and we will leave your empire paralyzed while we go talk to the other species in the galaxy. Eventually, one of them will come to take what you can no longer defend. We would prefer the first option. Velshara read the terms again. She looked at her advisors. They nodded. What choice did they have? The Zephyrian military was shattered. Communications were still disrupted. The Empire was vulnerable in a way it had never been before. But more than that, Velshara realized something. The humans were offering a better deal than she deserved. They were showing mercy when they had every right to show none. They were proving that their strength came not from cruelty but from wisdom. She pressed her 4 hands to the treaty document. A holographic signature appeared. I accept these terms, she said. On behalf of the Zephyrian Empire, I accept peace with humanity. Chen nodded. Then the war is over. The next 6 months passed quickly. Human fleets withdrew from Zephyrian space, leaving only small monitoring stations to ensure the treaty was honored. The Zephyrian military began restructuring with human advisors showing them new technologies and tactics. Trade routes opened. Zephyrian merchant ships began visiting Earth, bringing exotic goods and returning with human technology. Most importantly, word spread across the galaxy. Other species heard about the upstart humans who had defeated the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Some were scared, some were curious. All of them approached humanity with respect. First contact with other species went very differently than it had with the Zephyrians. When humans arrived at new systems, they came in small diplomatic vessels, not battle fleets. But everyone knew what could happen if negotiations failed. Everyone knew what the humans were capable of when threatened. Peace, it turned out, was much easier to negotiate when everyone respected your strength. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the observation deck of the new human embassy station orbiting Zephyria Prime. Through the viewport, she could see both human and Zephyrian ships moving in formation. Joint patrol exercises, learning to work together. Ambassador Chen joined her. "Penny for your thoughts, Admiral?" "I was thinking about what we did," Okonkwo said. "We proved we could fight. We showed the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. But now comes the harder part. Which is proving we can lead. Proving that we are not just warriors but builders, teachers, partners. War is easy compared to peace." Chen nodded. "True, but I think we will manage. We survived Earth's wars and learned from them. We faced the Zephyrians and chose mercy over revenge. Those are good signs." Below them, a Zephyrian shuttle approached the station. Velshara had requested a private meeting. She came alone without guards or advisors. Chen met her in a conference room. She looked better than she had 6 months ago. Less tired, less beaten. "Ambassador," she said, "I wanted to ask you something, in private." "Of course. You showed us mercy. You could have destroyed my empire, but you chose not to. You could have occupied our worlds, but you withdrew. Why? What stops humanity from becoming exactly what we were? What stops you from becoming conquerors?" Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "We learned our lesson on Earth, Empress. We learned what happens when power is used for domination instead of cooperation. We learned that conquest creates enemies, but cooperation creates friends. We learned that the strongest civilizations are not the ones that rule through fear, but the ones that lead through example." He looked out the window at the ships moving together. "We are not perfect. We have made mistakes. We will make more mistakes. But we try to learn from them. That is what separates us from what you were. You had 12,000 years and never changed. We had 80 years and changed completely. The question is not whether humanity will be tempted by conquest. The question is whether we will remember why we chose cooperation instead." Velshara nodded slowly. "I think I understand. You are not stronger because of your weapons. You are stronger because you chose to be better than your worst instincts." "Exactly." She stood. "Thank you, Ambassador, for the honesty and for the second chance." After she left, Chen returned to the observation deck. Okonkwo was still there, watching the stars. "Do you think we can do it?" the Admiral asked. "Build a lasting peace? Lead without conquering?" Chen smiled. "I think we have to try, because that is what humans do. We survive. We adapt. We find a way. And maybe, just maybe, we make the galaxy a little bit better in the process." They stood together in silence, watching human and alien ships move as one. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in human history, Earth stood not alone, but among equals in a galaxy that finally took them seriously. And above it all, in the darkness between stars, human warships continued their patrol, silent guardians, ready if needed, but hoping, always hoping, that they would never be needed again.